Welcome back. We continue our coverage of Malaysia flight MH17 and just questions surrounding that. Now, joining me to talk about it some more is Senior Flight Captain Colin Jordaan. He's also the former General Manager of Flight Operations at South African Airways and the former Director of the Civil Aviation Authority. He's just the person we want assurances from about aviation safety after what happened to this flight. And I think, Colin, thank you very much for your time this morning. And I think a lot of people wondering, will I fly again? Do I want to fly again at this point? As somebody who spends his life up in the air, I think just an assurance to start off with of whether incidents like this lead us to question whether air travel is still the safest.
Well, yes, statistically it is. There's no doubt about that. I think it's been proven time and time again. There are individual instances that happens in any transport industry, but aviation safety record has been improving for the last 40 years, year on year on year on year. And there have been years, in fact, when there have been no fatalities at all. So we in the industry regard something like Malaysia Flight 17 as an aberration. And it certainly is an aberration in terms of the eyes of the world. And I think one should not lump that into the general aspect of flight safety.
Looking specifically now at what happened on this flight, and I think a lot of questions about now the US obviously saying that their information suggests it was a mistake. Something like this, where it's shot down using that type of equipment, is there any warning that comes with this that the pilot could be aware of? Certainly not.
We don't have in civil airliners anti-missile detection equipment. And it's not warranted, certainly not until now. Up until now, the threat possibly in certain areas has been from man pads, as they're known, the portable air missile defense systems, which go up to about, no, we don't even know if that happens, right? But they go up to about 20, possibly 22,000 feet maximum. We're cruising normally above 30,000 feet. And even one of those small man-pad missiles would hit an engine of a twin-engine airplane, would destroy that, but the plane would keep on flying. So it hasn't really been a threat. This is the first incident, to my knowledge, and I think to pretty much everyone's knowledge, of an airliner being attacked by a very sophisticated surface-to-air missile.
And looking at the wreckage that we've had, that we've seen, or what's been shown to us, does it look like this obviously did not just hit one part and then it crashed? Does it look like this exploded?
On the parts that I've seen, certainly it does appear to be the case that this type of missile explodes in proximity of the aircraft that it's aimed at, and it has to be aimed at a specific aircraft because it is tracked and it locks onto that particular airplane. And when it gets close to the airplane, it then explodes, causing damage to large portions of the airplane, which would obviously affect the structural integrity of the airplane. And from what we've heard on eyewitness reports is that it flew for a very short while and then actually broke up in midair.
Let's talk about routes, and you've got a map here of, is this the actual route?
This is what we have here is between Amsterdam and Kuala Lumpur. Yeah. A straight line, what we call a Great Circle line, and this airport over here is in fact the next. So you'll see that the routing, the shortest route between Amsterdam and Kuala Lumpur takes you over the Ukraine. So all airlines try to optimize their flying costs. Yeah. So you fly the shortest route, sometimes maybe a bit longer to pick up favorable winds. You look at navigation charges. So most airlines flying in that direction, right or back, would be flying over the Ukraine. But I know that there were some airlines that through their own security intelligence, all right, had decided individually not to overfly that particular region.
They had gone around or slightly
and they had gone around,
something
correct.
Like that. We had seen those. Now, Colin, who decides that this is the route? Whose job is it to decide, okay, this plane, that flight, these flights for today, these are the routes you are going to take?
Every airline has a flight dispatch department with qualified flight dispatchers. They will work together with the authorities to say what routes are available on a particular day. And in Europe in particular, it being so congested, you may not have all of the routes available, the shortest routes. You may have to fly a bit longer on a particular day. There may be military exercises in a particular area, and then you're told on that day, route your flight around that.
So it can change at the last minute?
It can change. Yeah, normally there's enough notice for it to be done. But the flight dispatch department will work out what is the most optimum route, or is the optimum route for a particular flight. That flight these days gets uploaded directly into your flight management computer, and you get a copy of the flight plan that you're supposed to fly, and you'll fly that, because that is the optimum route.
Can a pilot refuse and say, listen, I'm not comfortable?
Well, you know, even in those circumstances, it would be highly unlikely, because, as I said, they were flying above at 33,000 feet, which is way above what would be a normal threat. The route was open.
Yeah.
It hadn't been closed by the ECAC, which is a European Civil Aviation Conference that handle air traffic control in that area, or Eurocontrol.
So there is a conversation that happens.
There's always a conversation
around the world,
and I think the area further south over Crimea had been not completely closed, but certainly had been flagged as being a don't go area. And then on the day when you're flying, if you have weather, you have to divert. So you request a diversion from air traffic control, left or right of track, in order to miss the weather.
As SAA, are you aware, are there any no-go zones for your flights in particular?
Well, right now we have a no-go zone over Libya. As we did in 2011, the Libyan airspace was closed for a number of years. It was reopened recently, and I happened to be flying to Frankfurt on last Sunday night, and when we got close to Libyan airspace, we were being told by Brazzaville and various other control centers that they couldn't raise Tripoli on the communication systems. And as we were getting close to Tripoli, we were told by the N'Djamena air traffic control that it had closed completely, and we had to do an in-flight diversion around Tripoli.
How much time do you have to do that? And how much notice do you need to do that?
Well, no, we did it on the fly. So basically, we've got our maps, we have our charts, we can go in on this new device that we have, see which is the best routing. But air traffic control came up and said, route to this particular point, and from there we took it, and we flew through Algeria and around. Added 20 minutes flying time to the flight. And luckily we had enough fuel to handle it without a problem. Can
passengers request or ask when they're booking their tickets what the actual route will be? Is that information that is given out?
No, it wouldn't be normally. It wouldn't be normally, but certainly on certain websites now, Flight Radar, for example, you can track aircraft real time. So you can see on a particular day which route Flight 260 from Joburg to Frankfurt is taken. You know.
So we can trust. I mean, obviously it's not possible to avoid every single war zone around the world, because, you know, we don't exactly have the most peaceful circumstances happening anywhere on any continent at this point. There's always somebody, there's always a fight going on somewhere. We can trust, though, that if there is major conflict going on, that an airline like our national carrier will avoid it at all costs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And you know, as I say, very in the initial stages of a conflict, the aviation security department of an airline should be up to speed in what's happening in the world. Yeah. Certainly ours are. I think they're caught a little bit unaware by the Tripoli thing on this particular flight. But in fact, our flight out of Frankfurt, which left a bit later, routed around. So they already knew, you know, and the system was working. What
would be the basis for avoiding it? Would it be somewhere where there have been where there has been an incident like this, where there are airstrikes in general, or would it just be, even if there's fighting on the ground, would that also raise a red flag? Well,
fighting on the ground, I mean, we fly over Central African Republic all the time, you know, so it's what is the level of threat? And certainly up until now, dissident organizations and terrorist organizations have not had access to sophisticated equipment such as was used to shoot down this airline. And I mean, whoever's responsible certainly must be held to account.
Must be held to account. And very quickly, before we let you go, Colin, the black boxes, now we know that these are gone to British civil aviation authorities, and we have to ask, okay, we know that this plane was shot down, but what information, what more could the black boxes actually, what answers could they provide at this point?
The black box will only indicate, possibly initially, lack of or depressurization as the hull breaks open. It will probably indicate loss of certain systems, and then at the point of breakup of the airplane, all transmission to the black box will typically be lost.
Because we know the cause here. We know what the cause was. We're
Correct.
not looking for, we're
Correct.
looking for the who. So it's really
Correct.
not going to provide very many answers.
I don't think it's going to provide much, other than to say it was flying at that altitude, in that direction, at that speed. And I don't think we'll get very much more out of that.
All right, thank you very much for your time and your assurances. That's Colin Jordaan. Thank you so much.
Know more. eNCA.com